Kayla, we're just testing to see if you can hear us.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Great, thank you. Again, remember that when you're speaking, to speak into the mic because it's the full camera of the room, so people can tell who's talking.
Are you ready? Welcome and to the March 7th, 2022 Shakopee Public Utilities Commission meeting. This meeting is being held at the SPU Service Center, and we ask that all participants mute your devices at this time. The public is welcome, and we have an open time slot for the public to address the commission. Ms. Nelson, will you please call the roll?
President Mokel,
Here.
Vice President Fox,
Here too.
Commissioner Brennan,
Here.
Commissioner Krieg,
Here.
Commissioner Letourneau.
Here.
All 5 commissioners are present.
Okay, we'll move on to number 2, communications. Does anybody have any communications they would like to share with the commission?
I have another party that inquired about EV charging and all of that, and I told them just for now, to get EV rates, you have to get the standalone dedicated meter. And they brought up some questions about the pricing, but looking up the basic numbers, it looks like they estimate about 250 kilowatt hours a month for a car, and based off the rate, it looked like that would be about $15 a month minus the $4 meter charge, so about $10 in savings a month to have a standalone meter at average rates. So unless you're driving less than like 75 or 50 kilowatt hours, which I think is 4 miles, so 200 miles or so or less, you're going to be saving money over that to get a different meter, if the math holds up.
Very interesting. Thank you. Any other comments or communications? All right. Moving on to number 3 is our consent agenda. Does anybody have any additions or subtractions for the agenda? Otherwise, I will take a motion to approve as presented.
Motion to accept agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments or
Who seconded?
questions?
Second.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
Sorry.
You both sounded like each other, so I wanted to make sure.
All right. Any other comments or questions on the agenda? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Moving on to item number 4, which is our liaison report. Commissioner Brennan, do you have anything you'd like to share with us this evening?
Just a couple of things. At the last meeting, the council approved the plans for the West End Lift Station Force Main and Water Main project, and that's the project that we're involved in on the West End side. We also approved and looked at the alternative urban area-wide review for southern Shakopee, and that's from Valley View to somewhere around County Road 42. The tribe has purchased some of the property on County Road 42, so it's kind of changed since we started that project. So that's going to be zoned for low-density housing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Any questions from Commissioner Brennan? Seeing none, we will move on to number 5, which is our public comment period. The public comment period provides an opportunity for the public to address the commission on items that are not on the agenda. Comments should not exceed 5 minutes. As president, I may adjust the time limit based upon the number of persons seeking to comment. This comment period may not be used to make personal attacks, to air personality grievances, or for political endorsements or campaigns. The public comments are intended for informational purposes only. Commissioners will not enter into a dialogue with commenters, and questions from commissioners will be for clarification only. Is there anybody who would like to address the commission at this time? Seeing none, we will move on to number 6, which is our general manager report. 6A, Mr. Drent.
Madam President, Commissioners, we've been working on quite a few things. At a high level, we have a handbook. We did, waiting for final email back. Kayla has been working with Flattery and Hood. They did get an email last week saying that review is coming very soon, so it should be on next meeting. West End Development on our DRC meeting. We got to hear some of the plans on the west side. We're just planning water and electricity out there. We got our substation obviously going in, so that'll be good. We should be in good shape for that. We did finalize the contract on the substation purchase of that transformer, and now the bid documents are out for the slab and the control building and that stuff. That will be coming back to this board as well. The NISC contracts are signed, and we're moving forward on our new billing system. Brad will update us on some service territory meetings we had. I also did meet with Ryan about other projects that we could do in this area, so that was good at MVEC. We did have MMPA meeting. Sharon was talking about some of the phone calls on scam that we got and what we've been trying to post. We've been getting some people that have said they're us and trying to get the bills that won't be disconnected. So I just asked Sharon that she kind of update on what we tried to accomplish there. We had some more water line discussion and splicing and what that looks like. So we're going to bring some more stuff back. HR worked on a remote working policy, so we have something in writing, what hours are expected, what equipment's checking out, so we got that in place here coming up. We did meet on some AMI stuff. I did have lunch with Bill Reynolds. We talked about several things, but one of the topics was a joint meeting, and I did send a quick email. I don't know if anyone had a chance to review it. March 29th is a potential date if that works. Is there a conflict that we want to try to pick a different date, or should I proceed with that? Okay, we'll proceed on that and getting an agenda put together on that. I also encourage our staff, if we can meet with other city officials from time to time and do. Kelly did meet with Nate at the city on finance just to make sure we're communicating properly, getting all the information that we wanted to do. So that meeting did happen as well. I'll be doing a quick memo on some of the commissioners' pay. It's been 7 years since the last time we reviewed that. So it's been so it was 14 years ago it was reviewed, 7 years ago it was reviewed, and now I'm going to review that again and just kind of see where that comes out. I did talk to Mr. Reynolds about that. That is approved by the city council. We usually put a memo together, and it is approved by the city council, even though the pay comes out of our checkbook and stuff, but I'd like to review that again. And then I will be sending out a meeting or another thing on summer conference will be coming up. We just got the dates on that for the summer conference at MMUA, and that's usually the second one, around our second meeting in August. So sometimes we've postponed the second meeting in August. We'll look at the dates, but I will be sending that out if anybody is interested in going to that. I think that's all I had for this time. I will stand for questions.
Questions for Mr. Drent? All right, seeing none, we will move on to number 7, which is our water items. 7A, our operations report. Mr. Schemmel.
Thank you very much. We have secured the services of a lab for PFAS testing. We did that last week. We checked with Department of Health, and their methods are fine, so we can't wait to do that. Greg recommended that we wait until September to do that testing, just to keep the samples about a year apart from the state so that we get a better idea of trending, which way it might be going. So probably won't be seeing anything till October on that. Today, we received the sample bottles for water aging, if you remember us bringing that up. It's been about 6 months, I think. But that's coming from USGS, Geological Survey, and they only do these when they get enough people that want these tests done, so we knew we were going to have to wait a little bit. Today we started filling tank 8. It now is 5% full. We're going to let it sit because it had a higher chlorination amount, for some disinfection purposes. And then so tomorrow morning, we're going to begin filling it until full, probably take until late Wednesday or early Thursday to have that done. So things are going well there. That's all I have for a report. If there are any questions that I can answer.
Any questions for Mr. Schimmel? Seeing none, thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
report. And with that, we'll move on to 7B, which is our bid results and estimates for well 23.
Yes. On February 28th, we opened sealed bids for the construction of well 23, and that's located at the Tank 8 site. We had 3 qualified bidders: Trout Companies out of Waite Park, EH Renter out of Elk River, and Mineral Service Plus out of Green Isle, Minnesota. The engineer's estimate for construction was $651,650. Funding for the well is coming from the connection fund with a budgeted amount of $727,000. Trout Companies is the low bidder with a bid of $389,209. Estimated engineering for the project is $89,980, bringing the project to $479,189, which is $247,811 under budget. So tonight with us is Paul Rubin. He's the project engineer for well 23 from Sambatech. And Paul will be happy to answer any questions you may have about the construction side.
All right. Are there any questions for Paul?
A couple questions.
Go ahead.
Can you explain the different kind of wells that there are? There are different rotary types that we have, and which one did we choose here, and one better than another?
Yes, one good idea that came up from SPU during the design was to open it up to multiple types of well construction. I mean, a lot of times when a well goes out to bid, you'll say you will do it this way. But this way, we allowed cable tool, we allowed mud rotary, and dual rotary. So each advantage has its, each method has its advantages and disadvantages. And then, each contractor typically only has one method. So if you spell out only one method, then you're, not allowing a lot of people to bid on it, which is of course going to reduce the amount of bidders on it. So we rewrote the spec so that it would address all 3 methods, so that there were no unfair advantages to either of the 3 methods. Want to make sure that it gets sealed properly. Want to make sure it has proper alignment. Want to make sure that well is it doesn't look like a banana. We want it to be really straight. So we thought that all 3 methods would work well. And then when the bids came back, we had Trout Construction, who was the apparent low bidder. They do a dual rotary, which means you basically have, you're turning the casing while you're augering at the same time. So, that has definite advantages. And then we also received a cable tool method bid. That was the one that came in from Renner. That, that's the method where they basically just kind of dig down as they go and kind of advance the casing as they go. And we also received a bid for mud rotary. That was the Mineral Services, which is the method where you kind of over drill the sides, you push the casing down to work. So, and I did a little reconnaissance on Trout. I mean, Trout's a very respected firm that does this kind of work. They've recently done wells over in Woodbury, Robbinsdale, the Sewer, Caledonia, Lake Elmo. So they've done wells that are similar to this and even larger than this well. So we definitely stand behind our recommendation to award them. Thank you.
That was definitely interesting to know that.
Yeah. Yep.
Any other comments or questions? Oh, Mr. Green?
How did our estimate end up so far off?
Well, what happened when we were making calls back in October, November, we're just calling some of the different suppliers, see what pipe prices look like. And at that time, the supply chains were a lot more unstable than they are. I mean, even now, they're fairly unstable, but back then, they were a lot higher. And back then, they were saying, well, we can't even get drivers or nothing. So I think a lot of, big fat numbers were thrown at us when we were calling around back in October, November. That's kind of what happened. I think the supply chains have stabilized somewhat since then. I also think that, the contractors really sharpened their pencil for this one. I think because there haven't been that many municipal wells drilled in the metro area recently. So I think, everyone kind of went after this one. So, and judging by the bids are pretty close to each other, so I think we have pretty good bids.
Like when you just go through some of the line items, the estimate and what the bids came back, I mean, sometimes they're half the value, sometimes they're,
A lot of
I
it's
don't
the
know if
pipe.
part of that is just the difference in the methods, but
I don't think it's so much the method, I think it's the materials. I mean, I think just the pipe prices. I mean, back in October, November, when we were calling around, we were hearing numbers of, you might be waiting 6 months to get your pipe. Now it's like 2-3 weeks out to get the pipe. So, there was a big, manufacturing issues back then, and then labor issues. So I think, things have just stabilized.
and then like on well removal, like mineral services had like $200,000 on that line. The other two are like 50. What kind of explains that variance in those costs?
Well, with their method, that's mud drilling. Usually they'll drill a bigger hole
Okay.
than that, so their cost might go up a little bit in that regard.
Okay. Okay.
I'd just like to comment. I do agree about the budget. We've seen this on other projects as well. I think that when we ran our budgets and not knowing lead times and not knowing if we can get product, we definitely escalated some of our stuff, so we would come in at or under budget. And I also think that this one, this is the first one that's gonna be dual rotary, and we've only had cable tool from what I understand in past. And I think there was an escalator in there when there was no competition, right? Or very few that had that method or that had to travel a long ways. So I think when we opened it up and I asked Lon and the water guys what their thought is, and we said, we think that as long as the specs are tight enough on the tolerances, on how straight it is, we have specs in there, that we thought that several different methods could do that. And I really think that it showed on this one, and it saved us some money.
All right. Ms. Brennan?
I'm going to take us back a couple of years when we were looking at the site plan for tank number 8, and it included well number 23. And at that point, it was indicated that we didn't need well 23 at this time, and that we were comfortable with pumping that water to the tank. I'm just curious to know why there was a change, and why was there why it's thought differently that we need it sooner than what was indicated at that time.
I can start, and I'll let Joe in planning kind of take over for most of this, but I do know that the rapid growth in that area, and what we expect to happen on the west end was really the driver behind this. And we have the industrial park. I think a few years back, we didn't know what that was going to look like, as well as Windermere, how fast that developed. We really just thought that this was prudent to do it now. And with the rapid growth, we decided, yeah, it's time. We know we could handle some without it through the booster station, but it's really a better product to have that well. So I'll let Joe in our planning department kind of evaluate that a little more.
Sure. There's a couple of things that need to be done in order for the well to be pumping into the system and filling the tank. And the first, of course, is drilling the well. But then we also have to build a pump house. So the pump house is in the plan to follow the well for 2024 or 2023 to have the pump house built. In the comp water plan, I believe the year that was projected for needing the well, the trigger point was 2024. We had put the well in earlier, as Greg alluded to, because the population was the driver for the comp plan analyst as to when we would need the well. And looking at the current population and the projected population in the 2040 city comp plan, assumption had to be made that we were going to have straight line incremental growth, consistent, steady incremental growth. And the reality that we've experienced in the time since the study was done is what I would call more than incremental growth or straight line growth. The rate of growth is faster. The number of housing units being built is much higher than that rate that was assumed. We did have the well initially in a CIP year where we were building the tank, and that was an error on my behalf because we didn't want to have the well and the tank simultaneous on the site. There's limited space, so we did push that back to this year to have it in this year's CIP. But that in a roundabout way, is kind of the explanation of the shifting of the timing of the well. As Lon has stated, due to the different pressure zones that we have, and the only way we have to feed water into the tank right now is the booster station, and there is a backup power supply to it, but it's more geography than straight population. This would be our only well in this pressure zone, and having that security with the fast growth that we're experiencing, to have two methods to fill the tank, the booster station and the well, that's what we're banking on.
And that was also part of the decision to oversize the tank because of population growth and being able to serve two zones from up in that area, so.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that the community knows what way we've changed, and so I appreciate the comments on that. I have one more question. Back when we did the CIP in November, it was indicated that we hadn't received a Department of Health permit for the well yet, and has that been completed, and are we?
That'll be next on the part of the contractor to apply
Okay.
for the permit.
Okay,
I mean, the plan review has been received from
Right.
MDH, so.
Yeah, but, okay, they still don't have the, I always get a smaller form from Department of Health, from David Weum or one of those for,
Right.
well bid, but,
Well, the contract will have to obtain another one before they start the work, but I mean,
Right.
as far as the review of the plan set, that's already been approved by MDH.
okay. All right, that's all I have.
Any other questions for Mr. Schimmel, Mr. Huber?
and if the staff requests, then the commission would award the project to Trout Companies?
Okay. Can I,
Motion to award the bid contract, the process to Truck Company.
all right. And a second from Mr. Krieg. All right, we have a motion on the table to accept the bid for Trout Company. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Oh, thank you very much.
All right, moving on to item 7. C is our city project 21-001 for Morris Street.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Adams, sorry.
Yep. So I have to apologize to the commission. In my memo, I indicated that the city would be having a meeting on the 8th of March. That's incorrect. I did not calculate that the first city council meeting of the month has already occurred on the 1st of the month. So their next meeting isn't until the 15th, a week from tomorrow, rather than tomorrow. Consequently, I was overly optimistic that we would have the bid results today. The bid opening was only on Friday. They were opened, and the city has shared with us some numbers, but they have cautioned that they are still confidential. They are still evaluating the bids, and they do not want those released publicly yet. They will be preparing a report for the council packet. Those packets, like yours, are available on the web page of the city, that you could look at them. But based on what I've seen but can't share, I am confident that the contractor, whichever one they select, the water main portion appears to be within our CIP number for our portion of the project for the water main. And so I would only state, Commission previously has indicated support for the project to the council, and you could reaffirm that by consensus tonight, but there is no bid to award by the commission. It is a city contract, and we have a reimbursement agreement in place for these types of projects with the city, and we'll follow that.
Okay, so because their meeting is on the 15th, we want to kind of get this in for a timing piece.
We don't,
I'm assuming.
commission doesn't meet again before the
Right.
15th.
Yeah.
So, based on what I've seen, if you trust me, I can't share the actual numbers, but they are promising, they are competitive bids. They're all on par with the engineer's estimate, and they are, there are 6 bids, and 5 of them will keep us under budget for sure. I haven't been able to totally confirm that with the 6, the highest bid's a little more than all the others. So whether that's in the water or not, but I don't think it's going to end up being the one awarded when there's 5 others that are under that one.
Now, will we have to retroactively approve it at the next meeting then,
We may be asking you to do something
as a policy or something?
at the next commission meeting.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Adams?
I have a question. You, in the memo that was included in the packet, you talked about the connection into Savage,
Yes.
and that is part of the bid package?
Yes, it
Also,
is.
even though that's, okay,
Yep.
even
We
though it'll
will-
be handled separately?
Staff will be bringing the commission a resolution to adopt for the lateral water main equivalent charge to set up for each of the individual properties that are benefiting from this project. If you recall, the commission, the council agreed that they would both fund the sewer for the city, sanitary sewer for the city, the water for the commission up front, and then there'd be certain parameters of when hookups occur, then customers would pay lateral fees, connection charges essentially to recover the construction cost of the main, in addition to the other hookup fees. So you need to pass a resolution that identifies what the per acre charge is for each individual property based on the actual construction costs. That'll be a future action by the commission.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Can I get a motion of support for the city council to award the project?
I will motion to support the decision they hopefully wisely choose.
Can I get a second?
I will second.
A second for Mr. Krieg. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 8, which is our electric items, our electric system operation report. Mr. Carlson.
Thank you, Madam President, Commission. We've had 2 electric outages since our last meet. One's kind of a 2-part, our 900 block, Atwood and Fuller. We had a arrestor fail. 51 of the customers were back on within 32 minutes. The remaining 8 were off for a total of 53. And then we had a failed transformer on Tyrone Drive, 1 customer affected, kind of minor ones. Electric projects we're working on, trademark, new business out on Stagecoach Road, Highway 101. Primary electric service was energized last week. Windermere 5th electric crews continue to work on installing underground facilities out there. We changed out 3-phase transformer at the West Shakopee Mall. We're having some issues on lead times with some of our bigger transformers, so we're just trying to make our stock transformers a little higher in our yard here in case we were to have problems. Electric and crews continue tree trimming on our entire system. And then last Tuesday, we hosted a joint meeting between SPU and Min Valley Electric Cooperative. About 25 people were in attendance from both SPU and MVC. IT, operations, everybody between the 2 groups kind of got together more face-to-face, meet who you're going to be working with. It was a great meeting. Mr. Gent was also available, and Ryan Henches from MVC. So it was a good meeting. Everybody kind of broke into little groups and trying to tackle how we're going to get to the end game. So it was a good overall meeting. That's all I have for a report tonight. Any questions?
All right, are there any questions for Mr. Carlson? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to 8B, which is our MMPA wholesale power contract review. Mr. Drent.
Madam President, Commissioners, just wanted to update you on a little bit on some wholesale power contract discussions that we are having potentially at MMPA, and then could potentially come back to this board. And obviously, you can see from the lengthy document, I didn't feel that it was appropriate that I would give you a document like that and ask you to make a decision at that meeting. So what I was trying to do here is understand what our current wholesale power contract looks like, an integrated resource plan that MMPA kind of works off of, although that is a couple years old, and potentially some renewable projects that the Power Agency is looking at going forward. And if they are going to do some of those renewable projects, really in the future, it's going to take some extension of some contracts with some of its members. So Shakopee Utility has been with MMPA since 2004. They first bought some energy with them and then became a whole requirements member with them at a later date. There's 12 member communities that belong to the organization, municipal utilities, and we have monthly board meetings, and we talk about, all aspects of energy, what it looks like now, what it's gonna look like, planning, renewables, and now our next push is really, what does 100% renewable look like as an agency? We think that that's where it is going in the long term. That's what it's gonna be. And in order to do that, to plan out something, you have to start looking at it now. We do have renewable in the portfolio right now, as you could see with some of the stuff there. We have several different ones, which I talked about at a year in review. We have a couple different wind projects. We have a solar project. And we have a biogas project. And really, we're looking at now that next phase is, should we build some more wind? Should we build some more solar? What does that look like? And so those next contracts, we currently have a contract till 2040 is where our current contract goes until, as a wholesale power contract with MMPA. And really, the next phase is really to 2050. These projects are financing our 30 years, and it takes 4 or 5 years to acquire land and get the project going. So really, we're looking at 2050 for the next set of bonding requirements. I grabbed some stuff off the website. If you ever get a chance to go on to mmpa.org, that's a great website to go on to and learn more about the communities, what they are. But really, MMPA mission is to provide reliable, competitively priced power to its members to create value for both the agency and its members. We take a long-term approach in supply planning in really conventional, renewable, and on all sets, and really now making the shift to all renewable. What does that look like? Each member community has a member that votes and a alternate that can come to the meetings. And when we do bonding on that, it is weighed voting. So normally it's just a one vote on all topics, paying bills, everything else. But when bonding is required, it's considered a weighed voting. So we are the largest member. We get the most say in those bonding bills and what we say. So really, I wasn't asking for any specific action tonight. I wanted to just have some discussions about what MMPA is. If there's any questions, we are planning on having, I believe it's in July in Anoka. They're going to have a kind of a year in review also, a supper where you'll all be invited to that. And that's another good thing to learn about the agency. And I thought the integrated resource plan, which is on MMPA's website, also was a good start to really dive into what we're trying to accomplish. That is filed with the PUC as an integrated resource plan. And they do that every so many years. They have to redo that. So as an agency, as we got large enough, we have to do that now. So I will stand for questions. If there's any topics you want me to go on a little deeper. MMPA, when they ask for that renewable, will have Avant Energy come here and give a presentation on what that looks like. But I thought it was important that everybody could see what our current contract looks like, and then also the integrated resource plan, which was done in 2018, what MMPA is looking at. Obviously, since 2018, I think even more of renewable has been a push, so even some of the stuff might be outdated in there, but it was the most recent information that I had. So, and with that, I will stand for questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Drent? It was a pretty substantial document to get through.
Yeah, and if there's, at future meetings, if you want to ask questions, feel free. If you want to dive into this a little bit more, understand it a little bit more, feel free to ask questions at a future meeting. I just thought it was good information to get out to the commissioners.
Kind of one general question on these wind projects and the utility scale solar stuff. Are they basically contracting out and then signing a power purchase agreement? Is that what they're doing, or are they building their own stuff?
So we've done some of both. So, for example, the Buffalo Solar Project, they did do that. They have a purchase power, and then there's a buyback at the end of so many years, so somebody else gets a tax credit and some of those things like that. Oakland Wind Farm, the agency built that themselves and control that. So that project has been successful, helped being successful, that when prices go negative, because there is times that the price is negative, they'll shut that one off. And as an agency, we can do that when we own it. But when we don't own the project, they keep generate those, and then we just have to pay the extra negative during those times as an offset. So depends on which project it is. Le Sueur Bioenergy is owned by the agency. They did not contract with anybody else. So it just depends. I think what we're trying to get is the best value for the agency. We have some purchase power agreement and get the renewable energy credits. We own some, and the next phase is we want to own some more. So they're not, if it was just contracts, then we would not need to bond for it, because then we would just be basically paying for it at the time, but we're looking at owning some of our next resources again.
Yeah, I was wondering if the term on the extension is just for the bonds, or if it's also for the length of the power purchase agreements.
Yeah, and those are things that we can ask MMPA when they're here as well. Avant Energy, so.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so I just, again, just information, I just wanted to be aware of some things that could come up, and if you're reading it, and you have some questions, don't be afraid to send me an email or bring it up at this meeting, and I'll answer it as best I can. So.
I remember, there's a generating unit for Pump House 3. Does that still run? In the original contract that says, you know, we have some generation resources, and you look at Schedule A, and it's just 150 kilowatts at Pump House 3.
Yeah, no, it is not, and actually MMPA has went away from that program. So they used to curtail and be able to call on us to run them during certain peak times, which we'll talk about at our next discussion item on our AC control smart switch. But that program no longer exists with the agency, and we do not run that. So.
We rebuilt Pump House 3 several years ago. We retired that unit. We actually donated it. It originally came off a U.S. naval ship, marine diesel genset that we donated to a historical society in Minnesota that maintains unique engines.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right. If there's no other questions.
All right,
Thank you,
sounds
Mr.
good. Thank
Dunn.
you very much.
All right, under item 9, we have nothing, and so we'll move on to number 10, which is our general reports, and 10A is our marketing customer service report. Ms. Walsh.
Thank you, President Mokel and Commissioners. Under the conservation category, I have produced static clings that I would like to go into all of our retailers and put on our Energy Star and WaterSense appliances. I met with Warner Stallion today just to get their feedback on what they thought. They were excited because it would help them move product as well, but they do have to get it approved by marketing. So I'm assuming I'll bump into the same things with the other Lowe's and Home Depots and Appliance Smart and such, but we are going to try and push our conservation program that way. Under marketing, I've been busy with the website. I don't know, you may or may not have seen this, but the cross-connection and backflow prevention page is live. It's under residential water service information. And with an insert that's going out in March's billing statement, we are trying to educate customers, especially those with residential irrigation systems. They need to have their backflow devices checked annually. And so we are, at this point, just creating awareness and then providing a lot more information on the website for them. I'm working with engineering on developing a frequently asked question page for solar, net metering, DG interconnection. There are questions there that I think would be valuable for customers to see before they start the process. Today, you may have seen a Facebook post about us filling tank number 8.
I tried a little bit different approach there by telling the customers we were filling it and then offering up a little bit of a trivia interactive type thing to test their knowledge, and then linked it back to a page with all the answers on our website. When I checked, it was up for 2 hours, and we had reached 446 people with 77 engagements. So we'll see as people get home from work or get online if that improves. But it was something just a little bit more fun and hopefully appealing to people. We talked about phone scams briefly, or Mr. Drent did, and so this is probably the third time for sure, if not the fourth, in probably the last 6 months where phone scammers are trying to get people to pay. And so rather than just put something up that tells people this is going on, I thought it would be more beneficial to actually tell our customers how they can identify if it's us or not us. And so with that post, it links back to a website page where I identified 4 or 5 things that, SPU will never disconnect after hours, will never disconnect on a holiday or a weekend, will never stay on the line and make you pay using a method that isn't, an SPU-approved method of payment. So by sharing those things, hopefully people then would say, oh, okay, now I understand, and they feel a little bit more comfortable in knowing when it is a scam and when it's not. We talked about tree trimming a little bit, just so if customers saw us in their yards, they were aware of why we were there. As Mr. Carlson mentioned with MVEC, I'm working with their communications department, and they have already supplied me some of the materials that they've used through a couple of their other transitions of service. So we're not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to use what they have used in terms of what works, but we'll just put our SPU look and feel on it to make sure it looks like our product. And then lastly, it's a ways out yet, but we are planning a blood drive for this year. We had enough interest internally to warrant having the Red Cross come on site? But then we decided to open it up to the public as well. We do know the city also has one, but we've reached out to them to let them know about it in the event that either city employees or other residents didn't partake in theirs. There would be a second opportunity to participate in ours. Again, it's not happening till August, so we won't promote it yet. It's a little too early, but just to give the commission a heads up. And that's all I have for tonight.
All right. Are there any questions for Ms. Welch? Commissioner Brennan?
Yep, thank you. The phone scam, if you can give me a write-up that you would like me to read at the council meeting during my liaison report, and then I can share that information
Perfect.
with all the details. And then I'm curious to know if we've ever had a ribbon cutting at any of our facilities, like a ribbon cutting at Tank 8 or...
I don't know if we have, not since I've
That'd
been
be a
here.
Joe Adams question.
The historian.
It's been discussed, but due to other commitments, it's never really been well organized. There may have been one for the first substation, the South Shakopee substation, when it was first constructed, phase 1. But other than that, I don't think there's been a concerted effort to schedule something like that.
They don't go up frequently.
I see Sharon very excited by the opportunity, though. Did you see her eyes twinkle?
I was even thinking for our drive up.
Yeah.
I don't know
Oh,
if
yeah,
that
there you go.
warranted a ribbon cutting, but that's a pretty big deal when we
is.
launch that, so.
Well, I think it's a great way to show your presence in the community and invite the neighborhood, invite the business community and the contractors that were part of it, and so.
I agree.
Love that. Very good idea.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. Moving on to item 10B, the Smart Switch Program. Mr. Drent.
Thank you very much. I was brought up, some questions were asked at our last meeting about our Smart Switch program. This was on my list of things to do later this year, but it just kind of got escalated to the front when there was some other questions asked. So I thought, well, now's the time to really dive deep into our Smart Switch program and let the commission understand what it's costing us and where it's been, and then a potential about where it's going. So SPU has had the Smart Switch program going since 2003 with a couple different versions of how much was credited to your account. Currently, though, it is $12 to your electric bill in a year. So we do 4 months, 3 months, $4. Sorry about that. 3 months, $4. So $12 is credited to your bill. When the Smart Switch is run, it does cycle your air conditioner. And what are we trying to accomplish there is we're trying to really reduce the peak demand of our system and lower our purchase power costs. So we'll kind of get into a little bit on purchase power costs. We pay 2 different components to our bill when we see it, just like our commercial and industrial customers. We pay a demand rate, which is for the capacity, the peak demand on the system, and then we pay an energy rate. So it's the same way that we bill our industrial customers. So currently, our wholesale cost on the demand side of things in the summer is $15.42. So we pay that plus the energy component of that. So with that being said, that we have about 1,903 customers on this program. And when we cycle this, we have 3 groups that we cycle this. Brad Carlson now administers the program. I used to administer the program. He can run it. We have a couple other people in his department that can run the program, and we can set parameters on time that we want to run it. We don't have it linked to our system to say how are we going to shave our peak. So we can't link it to 2 different systems, and currently they can't be linked. So we monitor this from time to time or on a monthly basis during those summer months. What does our peak demand look like when we're creeping up on our peak demand? If it's early in the month, we will load shed. And then when we set the peak, then we'll know that we don't have to run the program until we get close to that peak again. So if we have a cool down period and then a start to ramp up, where we start to get close to it, then we need to monitor it again. And this is really a weekly activity. What does our load forecasting look like? How close to the peak demand do we get? So this is a little bit labor intensive. I did not include those into any of these numbers. It was strictly, these are our raw costs. So for example, since we divide the program up into 3 of those 1,900 customers, if you divide that by 3 and then you multiply it by the $15 demand charge, it's really just about $10,970 a month that we can save by doing this and running the program, which, when you look at it on that side of things, it seems fairly significant, right? But when you really factor in the rebates that we give, the software that it takes to run the program, we have to pay a company to send the signal, and then that totals really $51,000 for the year, and we save about $30,000 on our wholesale power cost. There's a couple things we can look at. Do we just some people like this program? They like the $12 credit, right? It is costing this organization money to run the program. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. We are not saving what it actually cost us to run this program. So we've heard more negative about this program than positive, I guess, from my experience and from customer service side of things, that people blame their air conditioning controller for the fault of their air conditioning system. What happens is you put this system either on the side of the house or on the side of the air conditioning unit, and the signal wire goes into it and then out of it into the air conditioning unit, and then it's normally closed, so it normally runs, just you can turn your air conditioner on, nothing happens. When we cycle it, it breaks that communication. So it's just like shutting off on your thermostat if you went to off. keep your fan running, so it's not exactly like it. But anyway, the controller, it's just opening that air conditioning unit up. So we don't go into the unit itself and do anything to the physical wiring. This is the communication from your thermostat to your air conditioner unit. So, so it opens it up. There is a temperature rise we don't know exactly because every house is insulated different. Do they have anything else that's a contributing factor? You know, we've been told from studies, you know, we can see upwards of a 2-degree, 3-degree difference if for 20 minutes somebody didn't run it, and then supposedly over the next 40 minutes, that air conditioning unit is supposed to recover and drive that temperature back down. You know, that's what we've done. In past, we haven't really promoted this program since I've been here 5 years ago. We've had the program when I started here 6 years ago now. Time's flying. We hadn't run it in a year or so we got it up back and running and we got it going. And we do use this on our summer months, and we've used it every month since then on trying to shave our peak. Have we hit it every time? Probably not, but I think pretty close. Usually there's a stretch of 3 to 4 days that really drives that peak up in that June, July, and August. That's when we set our peak for the month. And then once we set the peak, if it gets a little colder and then the temperature drives back up, it doesn't ever get to our system peak again for that month. So sometimes we'll run it for 3, 4, 5 days in a month. If the peak happens later in the month, we may try to drive that peak down lower in earlier parts of the month, and then later if it drives it up higher, we do run it a little bit more. But overall, it's usually, you know, 3 to 4 times, maybe 5 times in a month, and we'll be able to figure out when that peak is and drive that peak down. So we purchase a lot of energy on those peak days, you know, somewhere between 3 and 7 o'clock at night is where our system peak usually peaks at. So that's when we load curtail. We don't ever curtail all the way up to where we're setting our peak, or after it goes off later in the evening, we never curtail. So it's only during those peak times for a few hours during those peak events. So it's usually 2 to 3 hours. We usually know when our peak's set. Like I say, it seems somewhere between 4 and 7, we always set our peak, and we watch that on a regular basis. So it depends on if industry is still on, or as people get home, we can watch our peak. And then through our SCADA system, we get alarms too. If our system is peaking, we'll set alarms on those hot days, and then we'll get alarms if we're gonna hit that, and then we'll know to have that load control go. So it depends on the month how much we run it, and we try to shave that peak. We hit most of them, we don't hit them all, and that's kind of at a high level. That's what it does. When we do take these off, there's certain customers that want them off. They don't want to be in the program anymore. We do hire an electrician because it's behind the meter, and we don't work on anything behind the meter. For the most part, we had a local electrician do it, and it's right around $86 to $90 to remove one of these devices off. Do I think that we have to remove them once we go away with the program? That would be a commission decision, but there's been other times that you just leave them. They're in their normal state is a closed state. Unless we operate them, they're not gonna go to an open state. So if somebody wants it off, we definitely will remove it. But I think if we decided that we don't want to run the program after this year, I would probably say we just leave them on there. And if somebody puts a new air conditioner, well, what is this? You can just throw it away when you're getting a new air conditioning unit. So
Have any aftermarket value worth obtaining them?
not really, no. Most people now are going to a thermostat, like a Nest and stuff like that. So it's a Wi-Fi connection to your thermostat. So you don't even put this device on anymore. And I think that if we change the program ever in the future, I think that's what we would want to go to as well, is just make sure that we go to something that's a little up on times, and we can see it. So currently, we can see how many that we have on the system. We can watch our peak, and it's difficult because 700 kW on a 100 meg system, you don't really see much. I mean, it's not much of a blip, but usually you can see when it goes down a little bit on our load, but if a business shuts off too, it drops that kind of load too. So sometimes it's hard for us to see much of an impact on that when we operate it. But that's kind of it. Another thing, if somebody buys a home that has the program, we don't ask them, we automatically enroll in them. If they ask us, they call us and say, what is this? We don't want it, then we'll send somebody out to remove it. So that's just been the past practice, is that if it's on an air conditioning unit, they get automatically enrolled into the new program. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. I know we had some concerned citizen posts on this, and I thought, well, it would be a good time to review it, understand what it's costing us, and there's really a couple different things we can do on the second page. You know, we can discontinue the program. I think that we should inform our customers if we're going to discontinue a program, because it doesn't make financial sense. Do we try to keep it running and do not rebate? Difficult for people to support it when they're not getting a rebate amount, right? But that's really the only way I could see for it to be profitable. We could try to keep it in running, but really, we have to get to over 7,500 customers to make this program profitable. And then I didn't go back and see if there's anything that the messaging services, if they have a tiered type system. I didn't dive into that many details on whether they have a tiered type program where then they would charge us more for that messaging. But I would assume it's not a lot more. It could be some more on that. So those are the three different options. My gut feeling is we do spend a lot of time and energy on this program, really for little or no savings. It's actually costing us a little bit of money right now. If purchase power cost demand charges go up significantly, obviously then the more you save, the better you look on this. But the current structure, it makes it pretty tough. I do know there has been a couple other members of MMPA, not in the last couple of years, but I do know that there have been a couple other members that went away from it because they did the same analysis. They came to the same conclusion that it's tough to make a go of this program under its current structure.
Honestly, even just the software side of it, to have it, takes all of the money we'd get from using it. I would say the 7,500 doesn't even sound like it's feasible, given like there's 1,800 homes in Shakopee. We'd have to like make everyone sign up, and then there's the labor and hardware and materials for deploying it. So I think we should just take that refund we're giving people on this program and allocate it to something like a Nest. And then that'll help keep energy usage down year round instead of just peak and having us to do it manually.
Okay.
Because we'd save $30,000 on that end and then give the community $20,000 to update their stuff.
Yeah, Sharon had brought me a program on potentially a thermostat this last year, and we didn't implement it this last year, but if you want us to consider that, we will definitely look at that in 2023 as a rebated amount, and that program will thermostat, no doubt about that.
Definitely seems more productive long term.
Yeah.
So if we were to cancel the program, I guess we'd have to decide whether to remove the existing 1,900, right, which at $100 a piece is, 19,000. Are there any other costs with canceling the software?
And is it prorated? Do we get money back?
And do we have to remove the devices?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe we have to remove the devices, but, I mean.
It'd be hard to say that if we didn't, or we removed them upon somebody's asking, we would just leave them out there if somebody asked to have it removed and then not do it after we'd kind of created that process before. I think that would be hard to do. That would be my only concern with that, saying, let's just leave them all on the homes, and then the homeowners come back and say, well, you did that for so-and-so and you took it off, and then we're stuck with all these.
I think it seems like a different situation, though, a voluntary and an asking to take it off.
Want it to go. But if you're fine leaving it there and it takes up this much space and you don't, I mean, most people probably won't even notice either way.
Yeah, most people will not notice either way. I think we could easily, if we wanted to send a letter, say, hey, we have this device on there. If you want us to remove us, let us know. if you're okay with leaving it, it'll be in a closed state, and it really doesn't affect the operation of it, so. So,
My guess is that most people won't take the time to set up a schedule to have someone come and
Or,
remove the device.
here's an option. Say, since it has no value, it has no worth, it's not harming anything, leave it there, and if you want people, we can charge for like a disposal and disconnect thing, because we have to go there, disconnect it, open it up. Like, it's fine as is, and if you want us to alter that, then it's gonna be like, what, $50 to disconnect it and dispose of it.
yeah, I think the first question is do we want to discontinue the program? And then I believe that then the next step is what do we want to do with these things? I believe you're off by 1-0 though on your $19,000. Isn't it 1,900 for 190,000, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm missing a zero.
Yeah. So
I
I
only
just
had
want to make sure
one.
that we're clear that it's significant to take them all off.
Yeah.
Just so everyone's aware of that. So,
Yeah.
I want to be perfectly clear on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think from your question, I don't think the rebate program makes sense to continue. So I think that would be one thing I would say that needs to be discontinued. And then the process of the discontinuation would be a question.
Yeah, and I think if that's the board's direction, I think this should be brought back up during our 2023 rates, and that's when the program will be disconnected. I think we've approved the rates for this year, and I don't want to stop something during the year. I would rather do that, like, yes, we understand we're going to do it when we set rates for 2023, then we will have a marketing campaign to say, hey, we're discontinuing this, it's part of that program, and that way it'll give our customers some notice that it's disconnecting as well.
I think everybody said everything that I had questions about. I agree. I think technology is different than it was at that time, and I think many people have the smart thermostats that they use and they can program.
Yep.
You know, we wouldn't have direct control over the peak time, but we still, I think people are using that.
I would agree with that.
I'm
statement,
also wondering how AMI would fit into this in the future when we have, I know that we're not having a customer component of it for a few more years, but when we move to that, is that something that would fit into?
Yeah, we can definitely look at it. I think the customers will have more choices at that time, right? And I think that if they have a Nest or a programmable thermostat that talks to them, they're going to look at their power differently. And I think over the next couple of years, I think obviously with commodity prices the way they are right now, I think everybody's going to take a little harder look at it and understand how they use their energy and what's better. And you know, if our wholesale power increases on the demand side significantly, I think we roll out a new program and have some sort of thermostat that we could control the thermostat, and then just have a little better package that's a little more up to date, less intrusive. You don't have to go to somebody's, you know, actual we can just go to their thermostat and not their AC unit outside and grab that wire. It's just part of and they can see it. So I do think that you're right. Technology is already much better, and I think over the next years it gets even better.
Yeah, but I think people don't like change, so I think having a year out would be really beneficial, so they make it through this, they like that $4 a month.
Yep.
They can have another year of it, and then having that option of having a rebate for the thermostats, and I think that would be a good counter to it. The one that I had read on Concerned Citizens was the fact that he didn't know that he had it, so it was always messing. He always thought his air conditioner wasn't working right.
Yeah.
So and maybe that's not disclosed to people when they buy a house that's on there. So I
Yeah.
think that.
I would agree. It currently is not. We just automatically enroll them.
Yeah.
I would say that they're, on a regular basis, it's not very many times, and it's only for a couple hours. So I don't think that it's messing with his system. But, I mean, unless something is wacky with the controller, but I think in all the years that I've been here, we haven't had somebody have a faulty controller that they hired an air conditioning person to come out. They found the faulty controller. We would have paid for it, but We have never had one since I've been here to say that it was the fault of that device. So I think it's a pretty robust device, and it doesn't really get ran that often, so.
I think we have consensus in the discontinuing the program. Do we want to work on messaging even before we do the rates? Because you're going to have people that are on it that are going to need to know it's going away and give them enough time to understand it's going away.
Yeah, so can I work with Sharon, and then we'll bring back something probably probably under consent and say, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and this is how we're gonna inform the customers, and she can write a memo on what she's gonna do to market that, hey, we're gonna discontinue this, and then next year we'll rebate some thermostats on that as well.
BJ, did you have?
Yeah, I would even say, I mean, this is pending what the software cost is. I mean, the software cost is $29,000 or something. So even if there's a phase out to the people that are getting that, even if you give them half when we're not even getting anything from it, if we're not paying for the software, we're still coming out on top on a budget side of it. So I think that would be something that might help ease the I'm not getting $4 off anymore, but I'm getting $2 off for nothing.
3 months, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's $12 over the year.
Over
So
the year,
It's like $1 a month.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, no, but I'm saying you're not going to get 12, you're going to get 6, but you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, we'll look at some different options, and we'll kind of let everyone know how we're gonna market that and phase that program out going forward. So, but can I get a motion to, that we would be really to take option one and discontinue, believe that would be, to discontinue the program in 2023. So then we're just having it on record.
All right, so I'll put out there option one to discontinue the program, and staff will bring back those options or those,
Phase out
Just the
option. Phase out option.
phase out procedures.
does that make sense to everyone? Somebody want to make that motion?
Motion to discontinue and phase out the Smart Switch program effective sometime 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Second by Mr. Letourneau. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Thank you very much for the great discussion. Number 12 is any future agenda items that commissioners would like to see on the agenda? All right, our next meeting is March 21st, and so I will take a motion to adjourn.
Come on, guys. we've made it
Motion
once.
to adjourn
Second.
to March 21st.
All right, a motion and a second by Mr. Fox. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, we are adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Recycle?
Now that I think about it, I know they had a